When I was a kid, my uncle was possessed, and um, it happened one summer when he came to stay with us. And this is kind of how it went. Um, let me, I got to go back and do a backstory, though, before I tell you this. That my aunt, well, my whole family has very strong abilities, and um, apparently before you know any of us were born, like my cousins and myself and my brother and stuff, um, my aunt used to play with the Ouija board, my mom's sister. Apparently my mom could never get it to work, but my aunt could. And so she would play with this, and she thought she was being very spiritual about it. I mean, she'd read the Bible too. And she did this a lot. I mean, a lot. And she had this one instance. I'm going to explain my aunt and uncle's house to you. And this house is in a lot of my dreams too, just because I grew up there. I was there all the time when I was growing up. But one day she went back to use the bathroom. Now, this house was a very old farmhouse. They had a lot of acreage. They had I think it was like 250 head of cattle. They lived 3 miles down the road from us growing up. They had this whole hillside that was theirs with this bluff drop off, and I mean they had a lot of property. And right across the street from it was a river. And a lot of the family lived on this road too, by the way, on both sides of the road. So when I was a kid, my cousin's uncle on the other side of the family, he lived right across the street. I mean, they just all lived there. Anyways, back to the story. So my aunt was going to the bathroom. This farmhouse had a extremely long hallway. So when you went down this hallway, it was like double the size of a normal hallway. I'm trying to think if I could even guesstimate how long that hallway was. I'm just going to say this. You know what the average hallway in a house looks like, right? It was like double that size. It was long. So when you went down this hallway, off to the left-hand side was 2 bedrooms on the left. Then halfway up, across from the second bedroom, was an entrance to the right where you went into this gigantic front room. And then the bathroom on the left, and then at the end of the hallway was the master bedroom. My aunt was in that bathroom. The reason why I'm telling you how long the hallway was is because she was in that bathroom, and she was washing her hands, and all of a sudden she heard bang, 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 bang on the door. So she was already standing at the sink. So she just ran over and opened the door really quick, and there was nobody there. And she was if somebody was there, she would have seen them running down that hallway. I mean, it was so quick that she would have seen, somebody running down that hallway. But there was nobody there. Anyways, one night she had gotten up to go to the bathroom and get a drink of water. And when she walked out of that hallway, when you walked to the end of that hallway, if you were in the kitchen and dining room, and then off to the right would have been a very small living room. That's where everybody accumulated when you'd come over, because it had the fireplace in there. When she looked out the kitchen window when she was going to get a drink of water, she saw this demon that was standing. Well, she just saw its head looking at her. I mean, and for this thing to have been standing there, it would have had to have been at least 8 feet tall. to be looking at her out this, window, because it was about 8 feet off the ground. Well, it had a suit on, and she said it had a really demonic looking, ugly face and horns. And no, did it have horns? Can't remember if it had horns or not, but it had a top hat. So no, I don't think it had horns. I think it was wearing a top hat. Anyways, she said it was hideous, and it was absolutely demonic looking. And she said she turned her back to it and went down the hallway and, ran in and got my uncle up, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know exactly what happened that night, but the next morning, she woke up, and at this point, it was just my oldest cousin. Well, her oldest, which is, he was born on the exact same day as me. Our moms are sisters. We were born across the hall from each other at the same time. We're 8 hours apart, so we've always been super close. Well, he said, "Mommy, the devil was in my room last night." And he told me, as an adult, he told me this story, that he was laying in bed, and that all of a sudden this man walked in his room, and he said he was beautiful, just very, very handsome man. And that he was wearing a suit and that top hat, the same as my aunt saw, only his face was beautiful. When my aunt saw him, the face was beautiful. And he said that he had on, that he walked up to his bed and he put his foot on the end. You know how somebody will like go and put your foot at the end of a bed? It kind of, he said it's like he bent his knee and he kind of leaned in, like closer to him. And he said he was wearing pilgrim shoes with a buckle on it. And he said that when he leaned in, he said he smiled. And he said when he smiled, his mouth went from ear to ear. And he had thousands of razor sharp teeth in his mouth. And, yeah. So my aunt ended up having a blessing done. I don't think it was one of our relatives. I think, if I can remember right, it was like her friend's dad that did it. And he was I think he was a local preacher or something, or a priest. Anyways, he came in and did it, and they said all the lights burst in the house, but it wasn't ever gone. I mean, they had other instances way later in life. Like, one time my cousin, the middle cousin, got up in the middle of the night to get something to drink. And he said, my cousin that was born, I'll just call him Jay. He said that Jay was sitting on the couch in the living room with the lights off. And he was like, what are you doing up? What are you doing in there? And he went and got something to drink. And he said that when he turned around and looked, that he was gone. It wasn't even him. So lots of different instances happened over the years. Anyways, my uncle came to spend the summer with us, and I think I was like 9 or 10, because I had a stack perm and my mom had cut my hair short. My hair used to be super, super long, like past my waist long, past my butt long, and I wouldn't comb it. I was a tomboy. I'd just put it up in a baseball cap and leave it. Anyways, that's how I'm gauging my age, because she made me get that stupid Dorothy Hamill haircut, and then when it started growing out, I got one of those stack perms. For you younger people that don't know what a stack perm is, the top was like flat, and the perm started about here, kind of went down. So I think I was like 9 or 10 when I had that hairdo. So I was about 9 or 10. He was younger than my mom and her siblings, like way younger. There was like 10 kids altogether. So he was still living at home. When everybody else was married and stuff, he was still just in his early 20s. So, anyways, sorry, my eyes are, like when you get tired, your eyes start kind of burning and itching at the same time. If I quit rubbing it, it wouldn't happen. But anyways, we would go back and forth. We were always down there at my uncle's house. I mean, we lived so close to each other, and we were so tight, that we were always down there. And my uncle had this thing where, I mean, if he thought it was going to get him high, he would try it. And I think that's what he was. I think it opened him up. It opened him up. And I think that whatever that was in the house, I think it glommed onto him. A piece of it did. He just started not acting right. And my dad said one time they had gone for a drive. Now, my uncle that was schizophrenic, I'll call him S. S was like 6'3", 6'4". My uncle, I'll call him B, was 6'3", and then my dad was 6'1". They're all, fairly big guys. My dad and my uncle were in the front seat of this car, and, my Uncle S was in the back, and he was like, I know you're talking about me, and my dad's like, we're not, nobody's talking about you, and he was like, I know you are. And he literally was trying to start this fist fight with my Uncle B. And, it just started from there, and it sort of increased. And, it just got to the point where he stopped, when he went home, he stopped coming out of his bedroom. We would hear him cussing out God from his bedroom in these weird voices. It was like almost this hissing sound that he would make with his voice. And he wrote vomit in a box in the front of this little Bible in crayon. And one time, my grandma said she was in the kitchen holding her Bible. My mom has the Bible now, but she was holding the Bible in her hands, and she was in the dining room where everybody would go, and she was fighting with my uncle. They were having words about something. Anyways, she said my uncle went to light his cigarette with one of those just regular Bic lighters, and she told my brother that the Bic flame jumped about 6 feet and lit that Bible page on fire. The voice the voices that would come out of his mouth were just, they weren't right. They weren't right, and, my grandma, she would tell us all the time, she'd say, the doctors think he's schizophrenic, and he's not. We all knew he wasn't schizophrenic. We all knew there was something very wrong with him, and that he was not schizophrenic, and that we knew he was possessed. We all did. There was something that lived in him that was not right. Another time, my grandparents were in bed, and I'd stay the night there a lot too. He never messed with me. I don't know if God had a thing around, some of us kids, but me and my other cousin, we stayed there a lot, and he never did anything to us. Then again, my grandma would make me a bed on that couch, and I'd end up at the, laying on the floor in front of their bedroom until my grandpa would find me, and, I'd end up crawling in bed with my grandpa. I don't know why they just didn't put me in his bed to begin with, because I did it every time. But anyways, my grandparents were in bed one night, and my grandma opened her eyes, and my uncle was standing at the end of the bed. Like I said, he was tall. He was 6'4". He sort of looked like Jesus, like the depiction of Jesus, with the auburn red hair, kind of curly, wavy, and shoulder length. He had blue eyes. She said, Steve? obviously that's his name, Steve. I don't know why. Anyways, it's Steve. She said, Steve, what are you doing? She said she talked to him, and every time she talked to him, he'd back up a little bit. And she was seeing him regular height, but my grandpa, who was literally, laying in bed, they had beds right next to each other. He saw him almost touching the ceiling tall. Every time they would say his name, he would back up a little bit, back up and back up. Well, all of a sudden they heard, Mom! They heard him calling my grandma from his bedroom. This thing that was standing in front of him wasn't even him. It backed up, it was a mimic, and it backed up into the closet. And they had this walk-in closet, and it backed up into there. And they had one of those chain lights, that you pull on and it turns the light on. My grandma reached up and pulled that light, and there was nothing there. There was nothing in there. Anyways, I grew up I have so many stories that I could share, but, some people don't believe that these things exist at all. They've never experienced it. It's no fault of theirs. If you've never experienced it, I can see where it might be hard to fully grasp what's out there. In another video that I did, I'm not sure if I put it up yet, I saw a mimic of my brother. So, and these things are flesh and blood. They're flesh and blood, just like you or I. They can morph into your loved ones, and they look just like them. They can look just like them. Their voice is what gives it away. The voice and the demeanor is what gave away my brother when I saw that mimic on my brother. But, I've been having dreams, where God He's shown me that, there's things coming, you guys, that's going to be terrifying to people, and we've got to be prepared. And everybody needs to know that they fear Jesus. They fear him greatly. Even if you don't believe, they do. And they fear him. And we've got to get prepared. There's things coming. These cryptids that we're seeing more and more. And I'm getting so sick and tired of hearing people go, oh, that's AI, that's AI. I pray in the name of Jesus that if you're hearing my voice right now, that the scales are removed from your eyes by the blood of Jesus, that you are kept safe, but that you see the truth by the blood of the Lamb. I want everybody to have the gift of discernment. Lord, I ask that you give every person hearing my voice the gift of discernment, of spiritual discernment, to be able to see the sentient beings that are behind these videos, so that they can fully understand and know what's real and what's not, and not dismiss real things because they think it's AI and they're not understanding or feeling what's behind the videos and the pictures. In Jesus' precious name I ask this. Amen. I hope you guys have a great evening, and I will talk to you really soon. God bless you. Take care of yourself. You got this. He chose you first. You have an assignment from God. You need to start doing your job for God. He is coming, and he's coming very soon.